Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dirt Nap City. I'm Alex, with my buddy Kelly. Hey, Kelly, what's up?
Hey, Alex. Doing great, man. Excited to see what we're going to talk about today. It's a little different kind of show today, isn't it?
It is. Today, we're going to have a themed show. Today is the Valentine's themed show. And unlike most of our episodes where one of us doesn't know, today we have planned where both of us know. It's a themed episode. We're going to be talking about Saint Valentine because, Kelly, it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, man.
Thanks. Will you be mine?
Yeah, be mine. And we're going to be talking about Saint Valentine, but also all things Valentine's Day. I've got a lot of special surprises. Before we get started, though, did you hear about our fellow podcaster, Rachel Maddow? You know who she is?
Yeah, I know who she is. What about her?
Well, she has a podcast. Now, unlike ours, she only has 8 episodes of hers, but, you know, she can keep trying. She has a podcast out, and it just got picked up by Steven Spielberg, just bought the rights to it to make a movie about it.
Wow. About the what is the podcast called?
The podcast is called Ultra, and it's about a plot 80 years ago to undermine like a sedition plot, kind of a pre January 6th, but it happened 80 years ago, kind of an attempt to overthrow the government.
Wow.
And so, yeah, Steven Spielberg is buying the rights to that, and he's going to make a feature film. So this is my pitch.
Steven, if you're listening.
And you know, why wouldn't you be? If you can buy the rights to our Colonel Sanders episode, and we'll take half of what Rachel Maddow's taking. And I think that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Half.
Yeah. Half. Yeah.
So if she got $50 million, we'll take 25.
Yeah. And we've got to split that 2 ways. So it's really only 12 and a half each.
As long as you put in the part about the curse of the Colonel.
The curse and the part about the gravy tasting like wallpaper paste.
Well, obviously, that's a deal breaker. All right, Steven, if you're listening, Mr. Spielberg, sir, that's my pitch to you. But today we talk about Saint Valentine's Day.
And cue the harp.
Yeah, no, that would be Cupid, and I've got some information about Cupid too. I'm all armed. I'm armed today, Kelly. I got all kinds of information, and so do you. You also have researched Saint Valentine.
I did.
Recently made a trip to Rome to Saint Valentine's catacombs. You visited
ate some candy.
His grave. You ate some sweetheart candies. It said, "Be mine."
Yep.
You got shot with several arrows.
I visited the Hallmark factory in Kansas City.
That's great. So you all know all about this. But let me ask you this. Before you did any of this, did you know anything about Saint Valentine at all?
No, I think I actually confused him with Cupid all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I knew he wasn't Cupid, but I just didn't even really think about too much about who Saint Valentine was. And I didn't have any idea that we were talking about a long, long time ago.
Well, yeah, because he was a 3rd century Roman saint, right?
3rd century. So we're talking, he lived in around the time of like the 250s.
Yeah, 250.
That's crazy. And he was a Roman saint known for courtly love.
Courtly love.
Not Courtney Love. Now, this is a whole, let's make a distinction here. We are not talking about Courtney Love. She's very much, well, I don't know about very much. She's alive. And Courtney Love, actually, did some research here too, was real name's Harrison. Not Love, but Courtney Love was her stripper name.
Not Courtly Love.
Do you know what Courtly Love is?
Royal?
Courtly love is a love that emphasizes nobility and chivalry.
Yeah, well, that sounds kind of royal, right?
Kind of doing nice things for somebody. It's somewhere between erotic desire and moral attainment.
Huh.
And I read some kind of contradictions. So courtly love is kind of the contradiction between illicit and morally elevating, passionate and disciplined, humiliating yet exalting.
So it has both of those qualities?
Yeah, it's like it's something that takes you by hold and is very real and grounded, but also something very kind of spiritual and elevating.
And that was what St. Valentine was known for.
That's the courtly love that we're talking about, as opposed to just lust or a crush or striking somebody's fancy. This is a kind of a love that takes you to that next level.
Or like our fans feel about our podcast, right? I love Dirt Nap City.
Sure. Now, when I think about Valentine's Day, I don't think about these, and I'm not let's just get this out here. I'm not a romantic guy. I used to think I was. And then
you got married.
Yeah. Turns out I'm not.
We are forgetting one other form as you get older and are married for longer, it becomes portly love.
Sure. It's kind of the Al Bundy style of relationships that we were brought up on, I guess. But when I think about Valentine's Day, I don't think about like romantic dinners or this kind of courtly love. I think about the 4th grade, 5th grade, where you pay $1 and have a carnation sent to somebody that you had a crush on, and that your hands were sweating all day waiting for these, or the humiliation of all your friends get a carnation from a girl and you're stuck empty-handed at the end of the day, and getting friend zoned, and all this kind of anxiety of being an adolescent and having that young love.
You know where the most famous and probably best illustration of that ever can be seen?
No.
So it would be a 1993 episode of The Simpsons where Lisa feels sorry for Ralph Wiggum. You know who Ralph Wiggum is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Sort of dorky kid. So
yeah, and Police Chase Boy.
But yes, Chief Wiggum's son. So she feels bad because Ralph did not get a Valentine. He was that kid, exactly who you're describing. So she, because she's a kind-hearted person, she gives him a Valentine card with a picture of a train, and it says, "I choose you." And he takes it as a love gesture. He misinterprets, and he thinks that Lisa is his girlfriend now, to which she gets very angry. Ralph gets heartbroken, and comedy ensues. But I always thought that was the most clever Valentine. Just what do you remember? You would give Valentines to other kids, and you would put them in a little bag, like or a box. Everybody decorated a box, and you put them in. And she puts it in his, and it's just one-sided. It's not anything you open. It's just a single card of paper. Hallmark probably had a 10 million% profit margin on this thing, and it's a picture of a train, and it says, "I choose you." Ralph picks it up and says, "Lisa chooses me." Smiles.
I remember when my son was little, they had a rule in the classroom that if you gave a Valentine to one person, you had to give it to everybody. So we would write these meaningless, we'd stay up all night writing these meaningless.
Did you have to write something on it?
You had to write who it was to and who it was from, and get a list of the class. And it was all disingenuous because, your friends would get the same Valentines that people that you didn't care about would get.
Was it boys to boys and girls to girls?
So everybody. But my son would usually pick out Valentines that had pictures of football players on them. Or I remember a Shrek Valentine set where Donkey would say, "You slay me." And I remember all these little cheesy slogans. But when I think of Valentine's Day, those are the things that I think about, not romantic dinners with your wife or anything. I just think of all that angst that goes along with being a little kid. Not something that Saint Valentine at all was familiar about. Do you know, while we're on this subject, do you know how one becomes a saint?
You have to be martyred?
there's kind of five steps. First of all, very much a lot of these are the same kind of criteria that you need to be on this show during Nap City. First of all, you need to be dead. Unlike this show, though, you have to wait 5 years. But in 5 years, then you put together a packet. Basically, you're sponsoring a person, and you have to show that they have some sort of heroic virtue. That stage is called heroic virtue.
Okay.
And after you've established that somebody has heroic virtue, then they do an investigation to see if you're venerable. And venerable, you have to show that this person lived a life that was good purpose. And during this process, there is actually a person appointed as part of this committee who's called a devil's advocate. That's where that term comes from. And the devil's advocate is supposed to raise questions, raise objections, say, I don't think this person should be a saint because they did this and this and this in their younger life. And they're the ones who's kind of advocating that the counter, that this person should not be a saint.
Putting it to the test.
They also have to have documented that there was miracles, that there was a miracle at least. And a miracle is something that happens that there's no other explanation for it. It must have been divine intervention. That something happens.
Fishes, walking on the water, raising the dead.
Any of that kind of stuff. Then the next stage after that, they pass through that stage is called the blessed stage, where they've blessed or blessed. And then finally, the fifth stage is where there's a saint, and that's where a second miracle has to be investigated and confirmed. Once you're confirmed to be a saint, you're canonized, and you are assigned a day, a feast day. Every saint has a day and a feast day. This is a Catholic Church thing. And then a thing about who you're responsible for, who you're the saint of. So,
right. Patron saint of
St. Valentine's Day is
February 14th.
February 14th. And St. Valentine is the patron saint of lovers and young people, but also the patron saint of beekeepers, patron saint of epilepsy, the patron saint of the plague.
Really?
The patron saint of fainting.
This is all according to the church.
Yeah. So if you're a beekeeper, it's like Valentine's Day every day, man.
Wow. I didn't realize you could be the patron saint of so many things.
I think they have like a number of things that they need saints for. And then the next time they have a saint, they just say, all right, well, how about
podcasts? I want to be the patron saint of podcast.
Yeah. Like, I want to do love. Okay. Well, then you're going to have to also do beekeepers and epilepsy because nobody else wanted that. So St. Valentine was actually a clergyman or a priest. And that's what he did during his life. But then, do you know who the Roman emperor was at the time?
Was it Caesar?
It was Claudius.
Claudius, okay.
And Claudius needed lots of dudes. He needed guys to fight for him, for the army. So he needed guys to be in the army. He needed to draft guys. And one thing that was getting in his way was people always getting married. So he does, and plus once they got married, they just weren't fierce anymore. So he decided, in order to get this army, to build up this army that I need, I'm going to ban weddings. No more marriages. Nobody can get married anymore. And anybody that tries to perform wedding ceremonies, I'm going to throw in jail.
Wow.
Well, Valentine, being the guy that he was,
courtly love,
the guy known for courtly love, he would perform wedding ceremonies that were against the law.
Oh,
and he eventually got thrown in jail by Claudius, and he kept doing it. He kept on performing these wedding ceremonies. Well, after a while, everyone loved Valentine, and the guy who's his jailer liked him. Claudius actually ended up liking him. And Claudius said, look, I'll let you out of jail as long as you renounce the church, as long as you renounce the Catholic Church. And he said, no, not only am I not going to renounce it, but I'm going to teach you about Jesus. And Claudius got so mad that he ordered Valentine to be beheaded, which is what you did back then.
So this was the martyring of him.
Sure. And then his jailer had a daughter, and Valentine had been teaching his daughter, and she was blind. He had been teaching her, and she was blind, and he sent a card to her that he was going to die and everything was going to be okay. And at the end of the card, he wrote, "From your Valentine." And she was able to read that card even though she was blind. And that's the miracle that they talk about. And it's also the first Valentine's card ever written.
Wow.
From your Valentine. It did not say "be mine." It did not say any of these other silly, did not say "you slay me." Did not say "you I choose you."
Right, right.
But she was able to read that card. Now, it didn't make her have sight for the rest of her life.
Yeah, it was just that one time because it was from him, and he was a saint, or he was destined to be a saint.
And I was never able to find anything about his second miracle. Now, when we talk about courtly love, there was about 1,000 years later, there were some people that wrote on courtly love and some rules of courtly love. And then there was like 31 rules, just like kind of Baskin-Robbins. The 31 rules of courtly love. And here's some of the rules. Boys do not love until they arrive at the age of maturity. So you can't, like a crush is not, like Ralph Wiggum, that's not love. That's not love. Marriage is no real excuse for not loving. I've been trying to pick that one apart for a while since I read that, and I don't really get that one too much. Marriage is no real excuse.
Well, maybe because back in the day they had a lot more arranged marriages, and maybe what they were saying was, even if you're in an arranged marriage, you still should love.
Yeah, probably. I like this one. The easy attainment of love makes it of little value. Difficulty of attainment makes it prized.
Yeah.
You believe in that?
I like that one. Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely.
A man in love is always apprehensive.
I don't know about that.
You're always getting torn between two different things. A true lover is constantly and without intermission possessed by the thought of his beloved. He who is jealous cannot love. And finally, no one can be bound by a double love.
It sounds like a Foreigner song.
Kind of does. Kind of does. All right. So, Saint Valentine didn't have a super long and storied career where there was all kinds of great and interesting things that happened to him. He was known for performing marriages when they were illegal.
Yeah. Keeping bees.
And I don't know how the beekeeper thing got in there. I don't know how epilepsy got in there. I don't know how fainting got in there, but he was known for this miracle and basically keeping love alive, though, in the world. And he was known all over the world for this. So,
did you, in your studies and your trips to Rome, did you read anything about the festival of Lupercalia?
No, tell me.
So something that I read that I thought was really interesting was about how St. Valentine's Day came to be, February 14th, and it had to do with this pagan festival, because during that time, Romans were pagans. They weren't Christians, and that's part of why Saint Valentine was persecuted. Well, the festival took place in mid-February, what would have been mid-February, and it was a feast called Lupercalia. It's Lupercalia. And during this thing, the men would sacrifice a goat and a dog and then they would whip the women with the hides of the dead animals. And this was supposed to help with fertility, to make men more fertile. So
might want to do a fact check on that.
Then the women would line up and whip the men for their own fertility with the hides of these dead animals. So basically, the church was not into this, right? The Christian church, the Catholic Church especially, did not believe that this should be a thing that was going on. So they kind of changed this festival. Oh, and also there was a part of the Lupercalia. They would get a jar, put everybody's name in it, and then they would draw names, and the couples would become a match if they drew the two names. So rather than doing this weird pagan thing, the Catholic Church decided St. Valentine's Day should be February 14th and take the place of this. Now, this was something that was, I think the festival of Lupercalia was something that was pretty famous, Lupercalia, but whether or not it became St. Valentine's Day is a little bit up in the air. But eventually, part of what fueled it was Chaucer and Shakespeare were both romantics and really felt like, in their writing style, they romanticized St. Valentine's Day.
Yeah. It sounds to me like the festival was kind of like a swingers party.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Well, they said everybody was drunk and naked at this thing.
And then they wanted it to be more
courtly.
Courtly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, do you know who Cupid was?
Cupid was an angel, right?
Cupid was actually part of Roman mythology. He was Venus's child, Venus's son.
Oh, okay.
And Venus, as we know from Bananarama, was the goddess of love. That's right. Yeah.
Goddess on the mountaintop.
And in the Greek mythology, he was Cupid was known as Eros.
Okay. Yep. I've heard that.
Cupid, he has the arrows, right?
Yeah.
The arrows on his back, and he has two sets of arrows. He had gold tip arrows, which you shoot and he makes people fall in love. But did you know there was another set of arrows that were silver tipped, and he can make people fall out of love or even hate each other? Did you know that?
No, but a total aside. Many years ago, I had a friend who was starting a band, and he was looking for names for the band. And one of the names that we came up with and brainstormed was Silvertip.
There you go.
I don't know why that just came back to me, but what would happen? They would fall out of love.
Yeah, or you can make someone hate somebody.
So that's kind of weird because gold and silver aren't actually opposites. They're kind of two of the same thing, just, precious metals. I think it'd be like poo tipped, you dip it in some poo or something, and that
sure.
But okay.
Well, according to mythology, so remember Apollo?
Yeah, you had the shoes with the wings.
So Apollo was real, arrogant. And he was bragging. He won a battle, and he was bragging about himself. And Cupid was annoyed, so he was bragging to Cupid, like, "I'm all this, and I'm better than you." And so Cupid shot him with an arrow, a gold arrow, and he made him fall in love with the first person he saw, which was Daphne.
Oh yeah.
Then he hit Daphne with the silver arrow.
So she'd hate Apollo.
Exactly. So then, because he wanted to get back at Apollo for being such a jerk. So in that story, Apollo learned that the worst thing you could have in life, you could have everything, but the worst thing to have is unrequited love.
Oh, yeah.
You just love somebody who doesn't love you back. And she couldn't love him back because she was shot with the silver tip arrow.
Yeah, it was impossible.
And he wouldn't stop stalking her and chasing her. So she went to her father and said, "This guy's constantly stalking me. I don't like him." And he solved that by turning her into a laurel tree.
Yeah.
And so he was heartbroken, Apollo was, but he loved her so much that he still adorned himself with laurels, like a laurel wreath at his head after every victory. And that's why when you see toga parties and people are dressed up and they have the little head thing, that's from Apollo wearing the laurel leaf because he loved Daphne so much because
Wow.
of Cupid playing that kind of really kind of immature prank when you think about it.
And then they named the hottest girl in Scooby-Doo after her.
Daphne. Yeah, I love that name, Daphne. I wish that was more of a popular name.
Yeah.
If your name is Daphne and you're listening to this, drop us a line.
Drop us a line.
Not at dirtnapcity.com, and we'll send something special your way.
Yeah. Love it. So a couple of questions and or thoughts on that. First of all, Cupid. So he had no real association with St. Valentine. Just both have to do with love, but that's coincidence.
Right. And I don't think they don't even really represent the same thing.
Did they ever hang out?
One was fiction and one was real. So no.
If they fought, who do you think would win?
Why would they fight? They're both lovers.
No, the Silver Arrow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Cupid was armed, so he would win. But he wouldn't win. He would win by making you fall in love with somebody who doesn't love you.
Okay, I'm going to jump track for just a second because I heard this and I thought of you, but I haven't told you about this yet. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said he had this idea for a video game, and Colonel Sanders made me think of this because I was telling him about Dirt Nap City and Colonel Sanders and the bad video game I think that Chef Boyardee and Colonel Sanders were in, and he said, I've always thought it would be cool to have a sort of Mortal Kombat type game, but they're all the characters are fast food restaurant characters. So you'd have Ronald McDonald, and you'd have Colonel Sanders, and you'd have Shoney's Big Boy, and they all, and Wendy, Wendy. Yeah, they all fight. They all fight against each other. I was like, that is pretty brilliant,
It is brilliant. The licensing, I would think, would be
that's what would stop it. Yeah, but anyway, that's an aside. I just always want to know. That's sort of a 10-year-old boy's question is, well, who would win in a fight?
Yeah. Although, in some of the sports video games, they do have, Nike and Adidas and other products side by side in there. So it might be something you could pitch to somebody, as long as everybody had an equal chance of winning in the fight. Make it where Wendy would never win. Or Wendy's wouldn't go with that.
Would always win. Wendy would use her red braids to, they grow and wrap around the neck or something. But I kind of agree with your assessment that Cupid would probably come out on top because he does have a weapon. Plus, he can fly.
I love the idea of Cupid, though, because that when you fall in love, that's exactly what it feels like. That you got shot by an arrow. And
no control.
Now, I didn't know about the silver-tipped arrows. That makes a lot of sense too, though.
Yeah.
That unrequited love is, as he knew, one of the most painful things that you can go through, where you just really can't stop thinking about somebody, and they don't have the same feelings.
You just want to be requited.
Yeah, exactly.
Please requite me.
Now, the most popular gift for Valentine's Day is
flowers.
Sweets. Flowers is actually like number 5 on the list, but sweets is the number one thing. And you mentioned earlier that Be Mine, right?
Yeah.
Do you know those candies are called Sweetheart candies, and they used to be made by the Necco company.
Necco, Necco,
Necco. So
I looked up. According to CandyStore.com's annual report from 2022, most recent Valentine's Day report, the most popular candies. Do you have the same survey or a different version of it?
No, hit me.
So they do it nationally in the U.S. So 17 states, the most popular candy is heart-shaped boxes of chocolates.
Of course, yeah.
For Valentine's. In 12 states, it's conversation hearts, which are the little hearts with the names on them. Maybe those are the Necco ones, with Be Mine and Bestie and Cutie Pie.
Those are called conversation. Okay.
That's what they called them. And then in 9 states, it's M&Ms, different types. By the way, I was just in Toronto last week, and I found a packet of M&Ms that was a mix of plain M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, and peanut butter M&Ms. Have you ever seen that?
No. Where is it? Was it just random or by color? Like, would you know which one?
Just random.
Which?
No, just random.
Love
like
that.
all different
Love
colors,
that.
all three. Yeah, I mean, because I do like plain M&Ms sometimes. I do like peanut M&Ms sometimes, and I like peanut butter M&Ms sometimes.
But you don't want a whole bag of each.
No.
Mix it up a little.
So I'm not sure if those were counted in these 9 states that picked M&Ms. And then chocolate and roses goes down to 5 states, and Hershey's Kisses tied for last place, 5 states.
Oh, that's a perfect Valentine's gift. The
Hershey's Kisses.
Yeah,
I agree.
Now those sweetheart candies that we were talking about, that Necco company actually declared bankruptcy in 2018. And the plant closed, and they sold off the candy, and the Spangler company bought it. But because they bought it and the factory had closed in 2019, they were setting up a new plant, and they weren't available in 2019.
Wow.
They retooled it, returned in 2020. But you know, those Necco candies, I don't think Necco knew what they had. I don't think they knew how popular they really were.
Yeah, they're very culturally significant.
Very in this country they are, and every year they retire different sayings. The CEO in the 90s wanted to update some of the sayings and retire others. He decided that he wanted to get hipper with it, so they retired some. And I don't know what's funnier, the ones they retired or the ones that are the new kind of modern terms. But
well, it's funny because I actually
you have this list?
My research. I don't know if it's the same list, but I have a list. I have a list of sayings from those candies. One of them, sweet pea.
Sweet pea.
Yeah,
I don't see that that's one of the retired ones. They might still have that one out there.
Okay.
And you know, the F and the P. Sometimes the F will look like a P.
Oh, the printing on those things is horrible.
The printing is terrible. And one of the ones they tried to do for a minute was pucker up, but
that didn't work.
No, it didn't work. They had to retool that one.
And they always use now, even before texting, they use the letter U and R.
Right.
So like you are cute was one.
Because it was 5 letters at the top and 4 letters. First row was 5 letters. The second row is 4 letters.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of real estate to work with.
No.
And then those cheap printing presses and whatever they used, where the P's and the F's get confused, and no, I've always and those things don't even taste all that good. They're kind of chalky.
No, but you know, they're. I was mad to find out that they had went bankrupt.
Huh.
Do you want to hear some of the retired ones?
Yeah. Let's hear the hip ones. Or let's hear the retired one first, and then what did this guy thought was hipper than that in the 90s?
So some of the retired ones was some of the more outdated sayings of like the 50s, and like dig me.
You dig?
Saucy boy.
I think if you wait long enough, these would come back around.
I think so too. How about groovy?
Well, yeah, that's sort of trapped in time.
Cool dude.
Okay.
Now this one is very dated. Fax me. I don't know if that was ever really that was one of those cool dude those 1990s
that was in the 90s. We have fax machines now.
Fax me. There was one that said you are late.
Maybe it was supposed to be you are something different, and it just looked like late.
Maybe.
Fate.
Maybe.
You are fate, like my fate.
There was one that said you rock. I kind of like that one. I think they should keep that one out there. This one wasn't as good. Let's read. I don't know if that was ever a cool thing to put. And then finally, there was one that said, and I'm not making this up, but it was retired. And I found this in lots of different sources with no explanation to this, but it was retired. One that said, you are gay.
Well, the word has a different meaning over time.
Now this year's batches, they have new ones. And let me go back. Let's see the ones from the 90s. Call me, email me.
Oh yeah, fax me.
Fax me. Yeah. Now we have, and they haven't learned because
DM
now
me.
it's text me.
Okay.
You are hot. And LOML, love of my life.
LO. Okay.
But like I said, pucker up, never made it.
I think I might even, like, if I had gotten that, I might have even like taken a
Sure.
eraser or something and adjusted it. Here you go.
Sure. I don't love those candies, like you say, but they're an integral part of Valentine's Day.
And I don't think they ever go bad or melt, right? They're very hardy. I mean, I guess you could crush them, but it's not like chocolates where if you leave it in your car or you leave it in the heat.
They're just chalky nonsense, right?
Yeah, very.
What's your favorite love song of all time?
I was just thinking about love songs. Have you ever heard the song "Is That Love" by Squeeze? You left my ring by the coat. Now is that love? Clean.
Probably have.
That's a great song. "Lovers Rock" by The Clash. You know that one?
No.
It's on. I think that's on London Calling. It's called "Lovers Rock."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those would be two of them. What about you?
I kind of like this song. I kind of like the song "Friday I'm in Love."
Yeah,
it's just a kind of a poppy,
very very happy song for The Cure.
It is a happy song, but kind of to me mimics the feeling that you have when you're in love. Just that
you kind of turned me on to The Cure in college. I had never been a fan. I was kind of punk rock and didn't like anything with synthesizers or big hair or earrings or anything like that. Just because I didn't think it was punk rock enough. Although earrings are kind of punk rock, so contradiction. But I remember you had a roommate at your dorm named Brendan. Yep. And I remember we were in your dorm room listening to 10:15 on a Saturday night, and you were air drumming and and lip syncing the whole
annoying
thing.
Him.
What's
that?
I
was annoying Brendan.
Yes, and that drip, 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 and you were just doing and that moment is the moment that I kind of thought I got to check out The Cure, and I listen to The Cure a lot now,
and they have gotten better over time.
Well, they also have don't they have a song called Love Song?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Friday I'm in Love, which it's an okay song. It is a little too poppy for me, I think, but what's Just Like Heaven? That's kind of a love song.
Yeah. I like the Queen song, You're My Best Friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a great love song.
Ooh, you're making me live.
Yeah, I just think I think that one and Friday I'm in Love, like I say, they kind of replicate that feeling of being in love and what that's all about.
Crazy little thing called love also has that sort of 50s vibe to it,
Mm-hmm.
That sort of rockabilly vibe. I just funny thing about that song, when I first got my car stereo in my Buick, you remember my Buick, that was one of the first songs I played on the cassette player, was because it sounded so good. It was very, very trebly, like had a lot of high end. Anyway, crazy little thing called love.
Yeah, exactly. At my wedding, we played "It Had to Be You" was our song.
Yeah,
it's kind of an old standard. I love that song.
Is that Sinatra?
He had done it. I don't know who actually wrote the song, but yeah, it's one of those old standards. And then I like the George Harrison Beatles song, "Something in the Way She Moves." I always thought that.
Oh yeah.
So George Harrison and then Eric Clapton later sang that too. Those are some of the ones that I'm into. I was looking for kind of a definitive list, like a Rolling Stone list of the greatest love songs, and I couldn't find that. And it seems like everybody out there has a list of the greatest love songs, and most of them fall short for me.
Well, there's a really obvious love song where it says the word love a lot, and then
like "I Will Always Love You," right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's very on the
On the
nose, right?
nose, exactly.
But then there's also love songs that are a lot darker or don't even mention the word, but they're still. I mean, kind of. If you think about it, everything is kind of about love, right? It's all about the whole world: love, money, power. I mean, those are the things that kind of make the world. There aren't a lot of categories for songs when you break it down, and love is probably at least a third of every song written.
Yeah, except for Weird Al songs, and almost none of them are about
No,
love.
I love Rocky Road.
That's true.
I love Rocky Road.
I think that for me, it's about this idea of courtly love. And I don't know if any Courtney Love. What's the greatest Courtney Love song?
I have Hole's greatest hits, and I'd have to say my favorite. I don't know. No, what with you and your wife having been married for a number of years, as have
Almost
I.
30 years, Kelly.
What is Valentine's Day like? Do you guys acknowledge it? Do you make it a point to go on a date? Do you make it a point, or because I'll tell you my answer first, only because it'll give you context. My wife has always hated Valentine's Day. She sees it as a fabricated thing, and I agree. I'm like, just show people you love them every day. You don't have to be told to set aside a day for it. Now, but other people I know are super romantic, and they wouldn't think of not bringing their wife flowers on Valentine's Day. Whereas my wife would appreciate flowers on any day except Valentine's Day because she feels like I was forced to do it on that day.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I mean, I think we established early on, which takes us off the hook. Let's face it. It's a lot of pressure to have to. You can't get it. You can't get in a restaurant.
Yeah.
The flower places set up like a tent in the supermarket,
and they jack up the prices. Everything's 3 times as expensive, and so. I could, honey, if I wait a day, I could get you 3 times as many flowers.
However, I think if you just treat it like another day and don't even mention it, don't even oh, by the way,
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I think if you play it off too cool, it could hurt some feelings.
Happy Lupercalia.
Yeah. I think it would be a tough day to have as a birthday. Because I think everybody's trying to go out and do your thing on your birthday. That would be tough.
Like
yeah,
Christmas.
I think I don't have a lot of pressure on Valentine's Day, but I do feel pressure to at least make something special and do something nice for her that day.
So I say all that about not caring about it. However, sort of ironically, that was the day I proposed to my wife. We went on a bike ride, and it was Valentine's Day.
And that's when she told you she hates Valentine's Day?
First of all, hell no. And second of all, you got it all wrong.
That's why she hates Valentine's Day.
No, she didn't mention that on that day. I already knew that, actually. I mean, I think she had a group of friends that had like an anti-Valentine's party, and listened to My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, okay. No, I would say that do something nice for her on that day. Take her car, fill it up with gas. Make her life easier for that day. Something small, something nice, something thoughtful,
something courtly.
Something courtly, exactly.
Yeah. Full circle.
What about romantic movies?
Oh goodness!
Can you think of any offhand? I mean, you have your cheap rom-coms. Your When Harry Met Sally, those kind of things.
My Big Greek Wedding comes to mind.
You like that one?
I do. It's a funny movie.
The most romantic movie, and it's not. I don't even know if it's a good movie because I haven't seen it.
Don't say Ghost.
It came out 30 years ago. No, it was a little scene movie that at the time I thought was amazing, but nobody talks about this movie ever, so it's probably not good. But I just remember thinking it was pretty cool at the time. And that was a movie, I think it came out like 1992, called Prelude to a Kiss. Have you ever seen that movie?
That movie? Yeah, I've heard of it.
It was Alec Baldwin and Meg Ryan. So
okay.
right away, you're like going down traditional
big stars
rom-com stuff. Yeah. Except they fell in love, they got married. And then there was this old man at the wedding, and he said, "Hey, can I just, I'll probably never kiss a woman again. Can I just have a kiss?" And he kisses the bride, and somehow there's this weird shift where his soul goes into her and her soul goes into him. So Alec Baldwin's character and her, they go on their honeymoon, and she's not the same. Her soul has left her, and
She doesn't
she's
realize
just
it?
like crusty old man. Well, she's not there. She's in the old man. Alec Baldwin, he's like, I'm not having a good time on this honeymoon with this woman that I had such a connection with. Then when he goes back to New York or wherever, he sees the old man again. And there's something about him that he's like instantly attracted to on this weird level. And it's kind of a cool thing about like, what is love really? And can you, he was attracted to this like 80-year-old man all of a sudden, but not in a sexual way, but like he couldn't stop being around him. And it was just, I thought it was cool at the time. I thought it would be a much more important and bigger movie, but I literally don't know anybody else that even likes this movie except for my wife. I also like the movie Sliding Doors. Do you remember that around kind of the multiverse?
Yeah.
What happens in this? I love those kind of movies when it comes to romantic movies about what if they had never actually met.
Right.
And what is like, what are you really attracted to? Are you attracted to somebody's soul? I just like those kind of movies more than kind of like the music, more than kind of more on the nose movies.
Yeah. A little more quirky, make you think about it, make you ponder some questions. It's always good when you kind of have to ask questions about the universe.
Yeah. I also really loved the musical Moulin Rouge. That came out about 20 years ago or so. Baz Luhrmann. I really dig that. It was very romantic, very romantic movie. Do you know what the longest marriage, the people that have been, how long the longest marriage was?
Well, I know that Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth were married for a long, long time, but
I think you're right. I think they were married over 75 years.
Yeah.
There's been about 20 marriages in history that have lasted more than 80 years, but one of them I don't personally recognize. One of them, they were cousins and they were married at 5 years old. And I don't personally recognize that one. I don't think that's a real marriage. No offense if you're listening. The longest current one is the Gladus, and they were married. They're Americans. They were married on May 25th, 1940, and they're still kicking it.
Wow.
And then I wanted to know, what was the longest marriage that ended in divorce?
Yeah. Why would you get divorced when you're 95 years old?
Exactly. You get to a point and it's probably easy. You just stay alive. But there was a couple in Italy. He was 99. She was 7. They had been married for 77 years. And they've been married 77 years, and he found out that she had an affair 60 years earlier. And he said, that's it.
Wow.
Filing for divorce. He was 99 years old, and he couldn't handle that, man. It was 60 years ago, but it still hurt him. So he filed for divorce.
So much of marriage is about forgiveness. Yeah,
sure. Do you know the average cost of a wedding these days?
I'm going to say $50,000.
Yeah, $28,000.
Wow.
With the most popular days being in September, June, October. It's expensive to get married, man. $28,000.
My daughter's friend just recently went to a Indian wedding, and she said that someone told her that wedding was like $150,000. It was multiple days, and they had they had different costumes and outfits for every different thing they did, and lots of meals and lots of jewelry. I mean, it sounds, I mean, that's a business to be in, right? If you can make money, people are always getting married, they're always having babies, and they're always dying, and so if you could have a shop where you took care of all three things at once, you could birth the baby, get the marriage, and have the funeral. One-stop shop.
It is sustainable. As long as I didn't have to go to weddings constantly. I think that would be. Although when we were about to get married, we were looking for a band, and we actually got to go to some weddings where we didn't know the people just to look at the band.
Your wedding crashers.
Yeah, and it was kind of fun. I was telling my wife, let's just get drunk and act like fools because nobody here knows us. Everybody thinks we're here for the other person, but she didn't take me up on that. I thought that would have been fun.
She didn't do it?
No, she didn't do that. But, that's my take on love, Kelly. That's my take on love. Everything love. St. Valentine, Cupid, courtly love. That's what I got today.
Man, I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I hope everybody does have a great Valentine's Day. And, there's nothing wrong with putting a little more love out in the world. I think sometimes violence and hatred and revenge is more romanticized and glorified than love. But I think love is actually more powerful, and it's what we should all be doing all the time.
A lot of times love gets ridiculed as being cheesy, right?
Or weak.
Something or weak or something that we shouldn't show our feelings. But no, I agree with you. That's the one thing that endures forever. So happy Valentine's out there to all of our listeners. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. I hope you get an awesome candy that says something really great like "You are cute" or "Fax me."
And happy Valentine's Day to you, too, Kelly. Fax me.
Fax me.
Fuck her up.
Thanks, Alex. Great episode.
All right, everybody. Well, this has been another episode of Dirt Nap City, the show about interesting people who happen to be dead. In this case, dead for a very long time. But we'll see you in 2 weeks with an episode where one of us won't know who the other person is talking about. Take care. Bye.